Chairs No Waiting, episode number 359, top episodes of 2015. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the fine folks over at Weaver's Department Store. Drop by over at Weaver's and check out some of the great stuff they got. If it's still warm where you are, check out the You're Not Talking to a Jerk, You Know t-shirt. It's awesome. Barney's No Jerk. Or if it's getting cold, head over and check out the Mayberry Union High Athletic Department sweatshirt, or maybe, my favorite, the Floyd's Barbershop sweatshirt. Weaver's has got them all. Head over to weaversdepartmentstore.com. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners just like you. I want to thank you all for your support. Thank you, patrons. I want to thank you for being a patron of the podcast. I want to introduce myself. I'm Alan Newsom, your host for Two Chairs No Waiting, the Andy Griffith Show fan podcast. Maybe you're new to podcasting. Maybe you have never heard this podcast before, and you got something new for Christmas and that you can listen to podcasts on. And we are happy. What's the right word to use? I'm so excited I can't even think of the right word to have you here with us in Mayberry, because we have a lot of fun each week. Now, this episode, what the plan is to kind of give you as a new person, or maybe even somebody who listens to the podcast but doesn't get to hear them all, a chance to find out which episodes of Two Chairs No Waiting might be stuff you want to go back and listen to. Okay, so this is not a normal episode of Two Chairs. It's kind of an introduction to twocairsnowaiting.com, the website, to the podcast. So we're going to head in and see what some of the favorite episodes for this year were. Now, before I get started on that, I want to remind you that I'm asking you, the listener, to send me your list of maybe your top 5 all-time favorite episodes of Two Chairs No Waiting that we can also use to help fans, new folks coming in, know which episodes they might want to go back and check out. Because there's 259 episodes of Two Chairs No Waiting. That's a lot of listening. So definitely want to try to give people some highlights that they might want to go back and listen to before they commit to, I'm sure everybody goes back and listens to all the past episodes. I would, because I'm a big Andy Griffith Show fan, but I don't know if you do or not. But let's go into this and see what some of the favorite episodes of listeners, not listeners, of people who actually download the podcast, because this is what this is going to be tonight. I used my information that's collected by downloads of episodes and stuff to come up with the top episodes of the year for 2015. So we're going to get a little background music going. There we go. All right, so let's go and check them out. So first off here, we're going to start with the top 5 episodes by downloads. This is by the number of downloads for the year from 2015. So coming in at number 5 of the top 5 downloads would be Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 339. It's called The E-Bullet, July 2015. Now, the E-Bullet, if you guys don't know, is the official newsletter of the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club. And every other month it comes out, and we take small bits of it and put it here on the podcast for you. Jim Clark, the presiding goober over at the Andy Griffith Show Rerun Watchers Club, is nice enough to give me permission to do that and to use some of his content here for you so you can become familiar with the newsletter. So definitely want to check that out. So that one was the number 5 most downloaded episode of the entire year. It came out back in August of 2015. All right, so next, no applause needed. Thank you. All right, next up, the number 4 episode was episode number 327. It was 10 Things You May Not Know About the Andy Griffith Show. Now, this was a fun episode to do. There was an article published on Answers.com, and we talked about 10 things you didn't know about the Andy Griffith Show. At least that's what it said on there. But I said it was 10 things you may not know, because if you're listening to this podcast, you know an awful lot about the Andy Griffith Show. Anyway, that was released back in April 22nd of 2015, and it was our 4th most downloaded episode of the year. Okay, next up, believe it or not, these happen a lot, but episode number 332 is a listener feedback episode. It's number 26, the 26th episode that's dedicated completely to listener feedback. And as I said, that happens quite often. Those are much downloaded episodes. So I'd love to get your feedback. I'm always telling you, I want your feedback for the podcast. You can email me at floyd@imaybear.com. But better yet, you call me at 888-684-8415 and leave me messages. Because as you can see here, the third most downloaded episode of the entire year, which came out back in June, by the way, June 10th, it was listener feedback, episode 26. So not only do I enjoy hearing your voice, so do other people. Now, the top 1 and 2 episodes of the year, along with the 11th most downloaded, just so you'll know that, are the episodes 314 and 315. That's number 2, and number 1 is 315. The reason I put those together is because they are Eleanor Donahue and Neil Brower from 2005, part 2 and 3. Those are our number 2 and number 1 most downloaded episodes of the year. Now, those were released back in January, so that gives you, I mean, they had the longest time period to become the most downloaded episodes, but they were. And I think it's strange that the first episode, because it's a 3-part series I did with Eleanor Donahue and Neil Brower, 2005. It's number 11. So you have the number 11th episode downloads, and number 2 and number 1 are all in that series. It's kind of surprising to me, people who listen to 3 and 2, parts 3 and 2, didn't go back and listen to part 1, but they must not have. Anyway, so those are the top 5 episodes by download, okay, by download. So these are download numbers. Now, that's just for episodes that were released in 2015, okay? So now I want to go and tell you, because those are some episodes you might enjoy hearing. Now, we'll have all these listed in our show notes, so you'll be able to go and download and click them and go and listen to them or watch them if they have videos. All of those that we just listed have video, but some of the next set of episodes may not, because these are the top all-time most downloaded episodes, okay? So this is not, this is going back, we're going to go back to, I forgot what number we went to, the top 10. So we're doing the top 10. Top 10 episodes of all time that were most downloaded. So you can check these out. Now, these are obviously, for reasons they're the most downloaded episodes ever. So they are also some of the oldest episodes I have. But they don't go back to the teens, actually. Yeah, there is one from the teens. So let's list them off, and you guys can think about whether you'd like to go listen to these. These are shorter. Back in the time I started doing these, the episodes were only about 10 minutes long. So you can go check them out real quickly. All right, so let's go and see number 10 all time. This is all time. Number 10 all time is number 22, episode number 22, David Browning, part 1. So that's our David Browning, the Mayberry deputy. It's his interview I did with him back, the first year I was podcasting. So it's week number 22 of podcasting. And so this is David Browning, the Mayberry deputy. So if you'd like to hear an interview I did with him, I need to do another one. Goodness. That was in 2009, March the 10th, 2009. Wow. A while back. All right. So next up is our number 9 episode, most downloaded, is number 27, episode number 27, Russell Hyatt interview part 2. I'm sorry. Part 2 is that's the number 9. And the number 8 is episode number 26. If you didn't catch that, it was 27. And now 26, Russell Hyatt interview part 1. So that is our number 8 most downloaded episode and number 9. Now, this is Russell Hyatt. If you don't know who he is the barber in Mount Airy, North Carolina, Andy Griffith's hometown, who is the owner and operator of Floyd's City Barbershop right there in Mount Airy. And this is an interview I did with him, and each episode is about 10 to 12 minutes long. So you go check those out. That's a 2-parter, I believe, with Russell. Okay, so that's number 8. Number 8 was episode number 26. And we're going to list these out, as I said, so you don't have to remember this. All right, number 7. Number 7 is episode number 13 of Two Chairs No Waiting. Myers Lake is Franklin Canyon Reservoir. So it's an episode all about Franklin Canyon Reservoir, which is the real Myers Lake location used in the opening credits of the Andy Griffith Show. It's where it was filmed. And this episode tells you about how to get there, driving directions, how to find things. And there are other episodes of the podcast that I've done since then that revisited this information. But this is the number 7 most downloaded episode of Two Chairs. So you can go check it out. And number 6 is episode number 38, James Best interview. It's about James Best. That's Roscoe P. Coltrane from the Dukes of Hazzard. Of course, from the Andy Griffith Show, it's the guitar player, Jim Lindsay. Definitely something you want to go check out if you hadn't heard this. This is a fairly short interview, but it's about 13 minutes long total. And this is, James was a great man. I enjoyed being around him and meeting him the many times I was able to. I got to introduce him on stage. Just somebody I'll never forget. He was always so nice to me. Great guy. So check this out. This is the 6th most downloaded episode of Two Chairs No Waiting ever, all time. All right, number 5. This one I don't really understand. I don't feel bad for it, but Gary Crane interview, number 47, episode number 18. Gary Crane is a Gomer Pyle tribute artist, and his voice is so much like Gomer's, it's just unbelievable. But he moved off, and so he doesn't get to work with us anymore. But this Gary Crane interview, episode number 47, is the number 5 most downloaded episode of all time. So congratulations, Gary. Gary scored higher than David Browning. That's amazing to me. Congratulations, Gary. Number 4 is number 34 of the Two Chairs No Waiting. It's a Howard Morris interview. So this is Ernest T. Bass himself. And when I started this podcast, one of the reasons I started it was because I had interviews like this that I had done and placed on imayberry.com back in the day when you actually used something called Real Audio. Now that's a throwback, and if you remember, you've been on the internet a long time, but you used Real Audio to post audio files because nobody had anything but dial-up modems, and so you wanted them to be as small as possible. When I decided to re-host those, I wanted to do a podcast about it. So some of the early podcasts I did were these recordings that had already been on the internet that I repurposed to make a podcast out of. And this is one of them. It's episode 34, Howard Morris interview, the number 4 most downloaded episode of all time. Next up, number 3 is episode number 31. What did the mirror say to the dresser? This is our 3rd most downloaded podcast ever, which is, I think, pretty amazing. This is actually information from Harvey Bullock, the writer from the Andy Griffith Show, because it was an episode where somebody said, it was actually in the episode Aunt Bee's Romance of the Andy Griffith Show, where there's a sound clip of it that says, did I ever tell you what the mirror said to the dresser? And Harvey Bullock answers the question of where this came from, why this came to be. But this is from the episode of the Andy Griffith Show called Aunt Bee's Romance. Okay, so if you want to find out what the mirror did say to the dresser, go and check out this podcast. That's number 31 of Two Chairs No Waiting, our 3rd most downloaded of all time. Next is number 2 is the Taylor Home Inn, part 4. Now, this is an interview I did with Dave and Marcia Shireman, who at the time owned the Taylor Home Inn. Marcia is no longer there, but Dave's still there. But it's the Taylor Home Inn. If you go to taylorhomeinn.com, or I think it's Taylor Home. Man, I can't remember. Let me look real quick. It's taylorhomeinn.com. Yes, it looks like I would remember that. I help them do the website. But this is an interview I did with them talking about building a replica of Andy Taylor's house. And it's an amazing house. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. So that's our 2nd most downloaded. And finally, the most downloaded episode of all time, as I mentioned to you just moments ago, is a listener feedback episode. It's called Listener Feedback 10 plus Tribute Artist. So we hear from you, and we hear from the folks who pretend to be Mayberry people, like Barney and Gomer and Ernest T. and Floyd. Well, that's me. But you hear from all of us. It's a fun episode to listen to, but that is our most downloaded of all time, episode number 49 of Two Chairs No Waiting. So, folks, those are just some of the ways that you can start to get acquainted with the Andy Griffith Show. Just some of the things. Now, one thing before we go, we got one more list I want to go through. Now, this is YouTube videos. Now, I didn't do YouTube videos of Two Chairs No Waiting when I first started. I didn't even check, but I've been doing them for a long time. I can't remember when I started. But there are now, and not only audio, if you listen to the audio of the podcast, which I completely recommend. There's no reason necessarily to watch the video. The video, I always try to add a little bit to it. I show pictures and things like that. So these I'm going to show you here are the top 10 videos of from YouTube that are related to Two Chairs No Waiting. There's a couple of them that are not episodes. So they're just things that are on the feed for the YouTube channel. So let me run through these for you, because this is kind of interesting. So you might be interested to watch some of the video clips. I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But let's go and check these out. So the top 10 episodes of Two Chairs No Waiting. Let's start with number 9. This is video episodes, and this is from 2015 only. So first up is a video, and it is episode number 222 of Two Chairs No Waiting, and it is Eleanor Donahue, Mayberry Days 2010. Now this was from January 2013, January 29th, and it's a video, as it said, of Eleanor Donahue from Mayberry Days 2010. Now you can obviously listen to the audio, or you can watch the video of it. But this was a fun video to see, and it was the 10th most popular video on my YouTube channel in 2015. Next up is episode number 281, released back in May 27th, 2014, and it's called Jim Neighbors Interview. Now this was an interview I did with Jim Neighbors. Very descriptive title. I hope you appreciate that. Jim Neighbors Interview. That was number 9. Number 8 is an episode that is called The Ghost and Mr. Chicken Part 2. This was episode number 160 of Two Chairs No Waiting, released back in October the 30th, 2011. This episode is talking about the Andy Griffith Show characters, actors, I should say, that appeared on The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, and tie-ins between Andy Griffith Show and The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. So that's number 8. Number 8. Number 7 is episode number 242, and it's called Mayberry Meets Matlock. It's from July the 2nd, 2013. And now this was actually an episode of the podcast where I showed clips from the Andy Griffith Show and clips from Matlock and how they came together. Because if you'll remember, back then they did, back on Matlock, they actually did the scene where Barney was getting Andy to come at him with a ruler and block it and all that stuff. You remember that? That actually happened on Matlock, as well as, of course, we know on the Andy Griffith Show. So that was fun to see. And that is our, what did I just tell you, 7th most popular episode on YouTube for 2015. All right, so let's head over now and see number 6, which is it's podcast episode number 119. It's African Americans in Mayberry. This was released in January the 17th, 2011. And it is the, what did I say? It's the 6th most popular video on my YouTube channel. Next up is number 159, which happens to be The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, which would be part 1 of the second part that we just saw a minute ago. And this is the fifth most popular episode. Okay. Next up is Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 288. Okay. Now this was a longer one. It was released back in July the 15th. It was in 2014, and it's called Ernest T. Bass, Thelma Lou, and a Fun Girl, Part 1. As you might guess, it's about Howard Morris, Betty Lynn, and Gene Carson. They were at the Squad Car Rendezvous in Ohio. That's what this is. So it's a great video. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. Go and check that out. All right, so let's see. Next up is... Oh, these are episodes now. These are not episodes of the podcast. These are another video. So this third most popular video on our channel is called Mountain Wedding, Charlene Sings. This video was created back in 2007, and it's actually from the Mayberry Squad Car Rendezvous from back in the 90s. So it's a really neat video. You won't see it anywhere else, really. Next up is the very most popular video on my entire channel. It's called The Andy Griffith Show Opening Credits, but it's not really. It's actually my son and myself walking down the trail there at Franklin Canyon. Okay, so this is a cool one. And the most popular one, is actually called From Francis to Aunt B, and it's episode number 148. Of the podcast, and it is by far one of the most popular episodes of the video version of the podcast, and it's the number one episode in 2015. Okay, so I hope you guys like that little rundown, and let me just tell you, this is kind of interesting. In 2015, the YouTube channel had 245,419 minutes of video were watched. And just to narrow that down a little bit, that's 170.43 days of viewing time. Wow. So with all the people who watched it, that's a lot. Now, it may not be a lot in YouTube terms, but to me, that is a lot of people. So 170 days, almost 170 and a half days of viewing time on video versions of the podcast or these other episodes. Wow. Amazing. Amazing to me. Completely amazing. So I don't know if you think it's as I'm just in awe that people have watched that much. They must, fast forward. Does that count as watched, you reckon? Have they fast forward past looking at me? Well, folks, that is an entire list of things that you can get started watching or listening to the Two Chairs No Waiting podcast. Those are some really good episodes to go back and check out and listen to. There are many others, in my opinion, that are very good that you would want to check out. Some of my favorites are the ones that we did where Floyd was where I did like it was a radio show. There's some episodes like that where it's like a radio show version of the Andy Griffith Show with Floyd and Burt Miller talking to each other. I love those episodes myself, personally. And maybe we'll talk about that next time. Okay? So here's what I'd like to hear from you. Some of you old timers, folks that have been listening for a long time, are these some of your favorite episodes or are they not? I've been asking for a while, and next week we'll try to hit them and run through them because I want to hear from you. If you could tell me what some of your favorite episodes of the Two Chairs No Waiting podcast are. That way we can share it with new folks like your friends that are listening right now. Because I know you may be listening for the first time. And if you are, I want to give you some help in finding episodes that you might want to go and jump around to. The way I do the podcast is there's no reason you can't just start today and listen forward and go back and listen anytime you like to old ones because they're not really tied together. They're called evergreen, is what you call it in podcast circles. They're evergreen content, meaning you can listen to them at any time. They don't get old. In general, that's the truth. So I want to encourage you to send me your stuff. You can send me at Floyd at imayberry.com. You can send me what you think your favorite episodes are. and I would love to hear them. So send them to me, and we'll tell everybody else next time. All right, folks. Hey, I want to thank you for joining me. It's always great to spend time here in Mayberry with you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of rundown. It's kind of reminiscing for those of us who have been a part of the podcast for a long time. But for you new guys, hopefully this gives you a good way to get started. All right, folks, I'd love to hear from you. Like I said, those listener feedback episodes go great. So give me a call at 888-684-8415. Or, like I said, you can email me at floyd@imayberry.com. However you'd like to contact me, whether it's YouTube comments or comments on the twochairsnowaiting.com website, I'd just love to hear from you. So until next time, see you then.